One company once controlled almost half the world's mobile phone market. Just a few years later, it was fighting for survival. So how did Nokia lose everything while Apple changed the future? The answer isn't as simple as the iPhone was better. In fact, Nokia had the technology, the money, and some of the smartest engineers in the world. What it didn't have was something far more important. And by the end of this story, you'll see why even the biggest companies can disappear if they ignore one simple truth. Back in the late 1990s and early 2000s, Nokia was unstoppable. The Finnish company built phones that were tough, reliable, and had batteries that seemed to last forever. Whether you lived in New York, London, Sydney, or a small village, chances were someone nearby owned a Nokia phone. At its peak in 2007, Nokia sold hundreds of millions of phones every year and led the global market. Success, however, can create a dangerous illusion. When everything is working, people naturally believe their strategy is working too. Inside Nokia, many leaders believed customers mainly cared about battery life, durability, and call quality. Those things mattered, but the world was quietly changing. Then came January 2007. Steve Jobs stood on a stage and introduced the first iPhone. At first, many people, including some inside Nokia, thought it was too expensive and too limited. It didn't even have features that many Nokia phones already offered. So why did it change everything? Because Apple wasn't trying to build a better phone. It was building a tiny computer that happened to make phone calls. That difference changed the entire industry. Instead of focusing only on hardware, Apple focused on software and the user experience. Every tap, every swipe, and every app was designed to work together. A year later, the App Store arrived, turning the iPhone into a platform that could constantly grow instead of a product that stayed the same. Here's the twist that surprises many people. Nokia actually had touchscreen technology before Apple. It also invested heavily in smartphone research. The problem wasn't a lack of innovation. The problem was turning those ideas into products people loved. Inside the company, different software teams competed instead of working together. Decision-making became slow. Managers often feared taking risks because failure could hurt their careers. When people become more afraid of making mistakes than excited about creating something new, innovation slows to a crawl. Meanwhile, Apple kept improving the iPhone year after year. Then Google entered the race with Android, giving other manufacturers a modern smartphone operating system. Suddenly, Nokia wasn't competing against one company. It was competing against an entire ecosystem. Customers no longer chose phones because of buttons or battery life alone. They chose apps, services, cameras, and experiences. The game had changed, but Nokia was still playing by the old rules. In 2011, Nokia made another dramatic move by partnering with Microsoft and adopting Windows Phone. Some experts believed it could become a strong third competitor. But developers continued building apps mainly for iPhone and Android, leaving Windows Phone with a much smaller app selection. Without enough apps, customers stayed away. Without customers, developers stayed away too. It became a cycle that was almost impossible to break. By 2013, Nokia sold its mobile phone business to Microsoft, marking the end of an era. The company itself didn't disappear. It shifted its focus to telecommunications equipment and network technology, where it still operates today. But its reign as the king of mobile phones was over. So what can we learn from Nokia's rise and fall? First, today's success can become tomorrow's biggest weakness if it makes you comfortable. Second, innovation isn't just about having great ideas. It's about acting on them before someone else does. Third, technology wins when it creates an entire experience, not just a better product. And finally, never assume customers will always value the same things. People's needs evolve, and the companies that adapt the fastest usually lead the future. Remember the question we started with? Nokia didn't lose everything because Apple simply built a better phone. It lost because the definition of a phone changed, and Nokia realized it too late. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more fascinating business stories, and tell us in the comments. Which company today do you think could become the next Nokia if it fails to adapt?